Hello, everyone, and welcome to RBCM at Home. Today, our topic is staff profile, and it's our first staff profile, and we're featuring Janet MacDonald. I'd like to begin, though, by acknowledging that the Royal BC Museum and I are located on the traditional territory of the Lekwungen, the Songhees, and the Esquimalt First Nations. And I not only extend my appreciation for the opportunity to live and learn here, but I really like to revel in the beauty of this place and how well the harmony of this place that I feel. And I'm always thankful for that. And we encourage folks, we know you're joining us from as far as Barkerville. So we encourage you to think about the traditional territory on whose lands you are on today as well while you're joining us. Now, RBCM at Home began over a year ago when the museum and archive was closed due to the pandemic, and it was an opportunity to talk to staff about what they were working on from home. Now that the museum is reopened, we have continued this program as a way of staying connected to people at home or at school around the province. And this program and previous ones have been recorded, and you can find them on the Royal BC Museum YouTube channel. Now, typically, this is where I introduce today's guest, but today's program is all about learning about the guest. So I don't want to say too much about this person, except I will acknowledge Janet is my boss. It has been my manager and mentor for 14 years at the Royal BC Museum. And she began 22 years ago at the Royal BC Museum. So if you've ever been curious about what it's like to work at a museum, this is what today's program is about. We're going to find out a little bit more about how getting involved and working in a museum and what it's been like. So Janet, thank you so much for saying yes.
Yes, okay.
And when did you first know you wanted to work in a museum?
Goes way back. And this is kind of like, I spent many hours with my mother, who enjoyed antique hunting in the 70s. So we would go out, usually on the weekends, and we would go to farm estates, estate sales, auction houses, all of those kinds of things where she was really kind of tagged me along. I was curious. I would kind of go into kind of barns and dig through the lot boxes and just curious about everything that was there that represented a history from like the 19th century. So you're looking at kind of like two generations like before me or three generations before me. And I got really fascinated with history and what I found. And I began as I lived in the country, and there was a museum that was like 2 miles down the road that I would bike to every day in the summer. And I did that for like 2 or 3 years in my teens. That kind of really it was a foundational piece that I felt when I immediately heard that you could actually go to school to learn about museums. I felt that I was home. So it was that kind of like that connection that I had, which was just so lovely. And I mean, I still remember how blown away I was to say, do you actually mean that I could go to school and get a degree about museums? Was mind-blowing. And that was like early 80s, and never looked back.
Well, since you brought up school, what are some of the education and skills you've had along the way?
So I started with Algonquin College in Ottawa. So I was living in Ottawa at the time. I'd been pursuing kind of a degree in journalism, and it didn't fit, and found out about this program. So it's now called Applied Museum Studies out of Algonquin College. It's long-standing. I was there, I think, in the third cohort. So it began in the late 70s. And it was an opportunity over 3 years to actually work in all aspects of museums and what they do. So it was a technology program, which means that you were on the ground doing things. So I had sort of an interpretive specialty, but at the same time, I would, learned about registration. We did conservation projects. We were putting things back together. We were designing, we were building exhibits. We were doing every facet of museums. And at the same time, because I was in Ottawa, it was a wonderful opportunity to, in the summer, get summer jobs at the National Museums. And the national museums were all separated at the time, right? So they were all in various warehouses. And I ended up in the Nepean storehouse of the Ethnology Service. So here we go with our colonial kind of jargon as it goes and our terminologies of the time. But ethnology was there, and I was fortunate enough over a number of summers to be able to catalog the National Inuit collection of prints and drawings. So it was just, again, sort of learning about museums across disciplines, I think has really helped me in the work that I've done since then. And I continue to do that with my master's, which was a museum studies master's, again, looking at clear across the whole spectrum of what museums do. But then I moved to Montreal and got a degree at the time at McGill in anthropology and art history. So again, still thinking about museums. And in the summer worked at the University Museum there, which was the Redpath Museum, which has all of the non-Canadian holdings from the university itself, and spent a lot of time there, and it turned into a job for a period of time. So my time at the Redpath was also foundational in working in a small museum, because I think the basis of all good work comes from small museums. You learn about everyone, you work together. And then it was moving to a large institution like the Royal BC Museum, wherein everything was kind of siloed and everyone had their expertise. And that's kind of a, you know, again, kind of coming into that environment where you're used to kind of pitching in and everyone working together to begin to navigate through silos, to be able to see those connections, was a challenge at times, kind of thing. But I think we are ultimately getting there.
Yeah, I agree. I have a similar trajectory in terms of starting in a small museum where you had to do all of the roles to moving to a larger one. And I think biasly, perhaps, that's a great way to start, because you do get such a sense of how it all works together and all the different responsibilities. And I think it makes you a great collaborator and partner when you do move into it, when you move into another role.
I think so too. Yeah.
Now, it's probably not a typical day kind of job, but what does a typical day look like?
Now? Not
yeah,
now.
Let's say a typical day. No, let's say now is a typical day as the head of learning at the Royal BC Museum. What is that like?
I don't really want to think about it. You know, I have a week and a half left to go, so it's not really my typical days right now. I'm kind of going through, but I think a reflection of sort of going through and clearing out cabinets and filing cabinets full of previous work begins to sort of kind of, you know, you're reminiscing, you're cleaning up, but you're also taking stock. And one of the things that I think about in a typical day, and I've had various typical days throughout my career here. So typical days coming in as a program producer. At that time, I was working on all of the blockbuster exhibitions that were coming on. So a typical day within that world over a period of probably 7 or 8 years was connecting with people, building events, researching the content for a blockbuster, whether it was Eternal Egypt or Leonardo da Vinci or Titanic or whatever those were, and Tibet, all of that. You began to immerse yourself in the content of those exhibitions. And then you immersed yourself in the people within the communities that brought meaning and value to programs that you were creating. And so those days were filled with learning and meeting all kinds of people. And then you'd have administration on the side, but you were building programs for people, working with volunteers at the time, when you can think about the hundreds of volunteers that would come on. You know, you and I both know, and it's so amazing to have volunteers that supported those special programs. So those days were just filled chock-a-block, and then you would develop them, you had a plan, and then you ultimately then implemented and delivered them. So we were all sort of on the ground, right? You know, you're setting tables up, you were setting the chairs up. You were kind of, could be there at midnight, kind of cleaning it all up. So the next day it looked like nothing happened and we were all on site. I mean, we all do that. I mean, that's kind of a small museum thing, but it's also a big museum thing.
Yeah, I've joked many times that in the job description for learning program developer or museum interpreter,
yes,
we should be asking, how come can you lift a table and chairs? Can you stacking chairs? What's your experience?
Got a strong back, give those kinds of things. And so that was kind of the first, day in the life was really when I'm starting to kind of clear up. You see all the business cards and remember all the people that you worked with, and really kind of managing sort of, we had a beautiful sort of actors program here for many years when budgets allowed. And so, I think of Barkerville, I think of Danette, so it was an amazing kind of actor. And the actors that came in here to really sort of bring exhibitions to life or bring the core galleries to life was really a wonderful kind of experience in that, and high satisfaction rates for visitors and things. And then when I moved into kind of managing, I was kind of doing both because I didn't want to kind of give up some of that, because that is so fulfilling. That is sort of the core, the guts of what service to the public is learning and programming and all of these connections that we make and hopefully bring value, and the value comes back to us. So I hung on to that for a while, although what begins to happen as you kind of begin to lead within sort of a division or a department is that you need to kind of start to look to the future and to strategize. And I remember kind of talking with Liz, one of our colleagues, kind of having that conversation around helicoptering up. So you kind of, you move up and away from the day-to-day of all of that work to kind of see where things are going. And also nurturing the team's talents as they kind of are moving forward, kind of thing. So then working across with all of my colleagues at kind of middle management or heads position to begin to kind of realize what the future might look like. So there's a lot of planning involved. There's a lot more paperwork to do, operational planning, work plans, and just to make sure that the vision moves forward. So, and really letting kind of a team sort of flourish and fly is one of my, I'm not a micromanager by any means. And to know that you've got a team that actually works well together, trusts each other, are in fact kind of good friends, really helps in kind of, moving all of that forward, right? So now it's sort of, I'm back in paperwork, getting rid of it, but the paper, it's important paperwork. It's important plans. It's the way you describe your vision that then actually people read to understand where we're going. That's been really kind of satisfying work as well, even though I miss the people connection that I used to have in that way. I think ultimately the strategic visions for where we're going, ultimately with modernization and the lessons learned from the work that we've done before and how we can ultimately change, will serve well with this kind of paradigm shift that's kind of happening now.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I'm going to ask you a little bit more about what you think the future of learning holds. But before I get there, I just wanted to also, that job you have of advocating for the role of learning and community is such an important part of the job as well. And you mentioned community and teams. I wanted to ask you about some people who've had an influence on you. Who are some of the folks that you've learned from along the way?
Oh my goodness. There aren't many that I could, I think I learned from everyone. This kind of, it sounds like sort of a crazy sort of answer. But key mentors don't stand out. It's really lessons learned from the individuals that I've worked with. So I really can't kind of name one or two people that do that for me. I mean, we've had teachers over the years and connections with what that work is. Pastoral support, working on a master's or things like that, but that's not where the deep kind of learning happens, right? Deep learning happens with individuals that you're building relationships with, whether it be Indigenous elders when I first came here for Hoopaquinum Tupat. I mean, that exhibition was so seminal in the way that I work with community and the advice given and the kindness shown. All of those kind of people along the way, no matter where they came from, the actors with passion, would, new audiences, new audience reactions, all of the team that I work with, I learn from every day in the way that they envision things. Our community partners who have just the guts and the courage to be able to work with us at a time when it's been difficult, where we need to decolonize and those kinds of things. I am learning from them all the time. So I can't really say there's any key mentors. I think, when you're looking at people from across any kind of organization and working from a small museum again, they really have everyone brings their value, and from those values, their values inform mine in a lot of ways. So yeah, tough. I didn't give you an answer, but I did, but it's not one person, or it's not several people.
And
Yeah.
I think that's the best kind of answer, because whenever you start naming individuals, then you're
Oh,
like,
my
and I
God.
should have said this person, or this person. Give many positive
inspirations all over the
way.
place. Inspirations all over the place. Yeah.
I think that's a lovely sign, and to me, that does speak to your personality as someone who's open, and you're open to other people and their experiences, and that definitely that's reflected there.
It's lovely.
This might be another challenging question, but I want you to take us there. I want you to tell us about a time you felt most engaged when working at the museum.
Yeah, so I had a little interview for Insight Magazine, and they asked about a highlight, right? Highlights from careers and things like that. So I have to go back. I think there's two really. But working with the Nuu-chah-nulth people when I first came out here, so I came back from the East, and learning now that I really had no knowledge whatsoever about indigeneity. Where I lived, grew up in Southern Ontario. For me, it didn't exist. The Indigenous peoples did not exist. I didn't know where the reserves were. I didn't know that there was a residential school down the way. Growing up, I was never taught anything in school. I was still for years kind of learning kind of like the colonial kind of kings and queens and God, all of those kinds of things that now we're kind of like coming to our own realizations as individuals. But when I came here, Hoopaquinum Tupat was an amazing exhibition. It was a true collaboration at a time when it wasn't happening very often. A co-created exhibition with the Nuu-chah-nulth peoples, 14 nations, working with the Nuu-chah-nulth Tribal Council out of Port Alberni, and following protocols that I learned about. So it was meeting elders. The elders told me what I should be doing as a programmer, which really was facilitating. So we learned, we're using now kind of the job titles of facilitator. First time I gave up my authority, because oftentimes you would create in your own bubble all these wonderful kind of programs and hope that everyone liked them. For the first time, it wasn't about me at all. And so for me, that was kind of it really set the stage for the community work that I continued to do going forward. And really sort of just an amazing kind of group, sort of to be able to kind of sit and to kind of actually envision something together and take that advice and move it through them and out into the community. So big highlight for me. I think the families exhibition, I don't know, Kim, if you think about the same way, but the families exhibition was really important in a way that we designed. We launched into design thinking, although we had done it kind of prior to Gold, bringing community in to kind of actually tell us what the exhibition should be. How might we do this? What's the vision for this exhibition? You bring people in from across, working with community on what they would like to see, working with youth and creating interactivity, telling those stories. Really again set the stage for the community engagement that's to come, kind of thing. So those two pieces, really, they're like probably 15 years apart, but we're
Goodness.
really
Yeah, I was going to
interested.
say they're kind of bookended, aren't there? You said one
Yeah,
was at the beginning.
yeah, no,
Um, so that
Mhm.
first exhibit you mentioned, that would be when, Janet? What year was that?
1999. So it was 1999, 2000, and then it traveled to LA and Denver as well after that with New Chalmers interpreters. So we actually had Indigenous interpreters on site, ran through those exhibitions as well, and we're kind of looked after by, I think of Bettina Thomas and Patty Burridge and Rob Johnson, who were New Chalmers mentors for these young people, as well as kind of, again, a wide range of ages to kind of interpret in those galleries, and the cultural elders that came in to look after them as a result of that. So, yeah, it's fun.
And then families, that was 2017, 2018, I want to say.
Yeah, 2017 maybe.
Great.
2017, yeah, maybe 2017.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have a question here from an attendee, and I was
Ah.
wondering if I was able to just activate her mic so she could ask it, but doesn't look like I can. So
Okay.
this question, yes, I can't. It seems like I can't. This question is from Sharn, who you know well.
I do.
And Sharn says, I'd love to ask Janet what her hopes for the future of cultural institution looks like, and how the channels for meaningful mentorship can occur for change.
I am always positive. I've always, again, one of the things is that I'm not a cynic. I always hope for the best and work hard to ensure that that happens in the ways that I work, in the way that I can emulate my work going forward. I think it takes, there's a lot of things about personality and passion that is underrated. This whole idea of people in place within sort of, when you're looking at leadership and those aspects of leadership and a certain percentage, your people in place. People in place to me is the forward going. Mutual respect leads in what happens going forward. I think we need our professionals to be have a strength in that, have a passion for it. They need to actually listen. That idea of cultural agility and open and mindful listening is prerequisite for any kind of work going forward. If you are not open, and if you are not willing to be open to anything, and if you are not willing to be open as an individual, personally, in the way that you have thought about things, the way that, and how you've done things that are irreparable, and cannot acknowledge what that is and do that hard work, you shouldn't be in this cultural profession anymore. I think it's maybe harsh, but at the same time, when I talk about this paradigm shift, our professionals need to shift as well. And if they cannot shift, you will forever be not valued as a cultural institution anymore. So within organizations, institutions, whether they be small, whether they be large, really kind of coming together to actually ask yourselves those key questions around what it is to be open and respectful, and what it is to give space, like to actually just give it up, so that we are no longer within colonial walls, but we are giving up all of that, and the authority then goes back to the people whose histories and whose stories are most meaningful and important. Because if, we've talked about all of the jargon that kind of goes along with museums, right? This whole idea of relevancy has always been talked about, but never really been practiced in the way that it should be. And so it is kind of shifting and turning things on their head, so that we are opening up and being available and actively supporting the work that goes forward from here. Or we won't be relevant. We will just not be relevant. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
No, I just want to let that sink in for a sec.
Mhm.
Janet,
Mm.
the 30 minutes has flown by. I hope
No. Oh my
Yes.
God.
I know you were anxious.
When I start talking, it's just like, okay, fine. There we go. Anyway.
So I have just two final questions for you. The
Me too.
worst part of your job, but then let's end on the best part of your job.
Worst part of my job. Oh, it's got to be statistics. I'm deep in it right now. It's like herding cats for statistics, right? So you're sitting there going, okay, how many, and thank God, we have Jenny right now. We have actually someone who like loves statistics and actually working on it. So you can just go and do that. It's those kind of, it's the tabulating, it's the quantifying the work, quantifying the worth that is irritating. It's important. It's like it leads to kind of funding. It does all of those kinds of things. I know, but at the same time, it's not the best part of the job. Not the best part. And the best part, you're asking about the best part?
And then the best part, we got to end on a positive note.
Oh my God, yeah, no. So the best part is really all the people that I have met over the years. I mean, I don't always stay in touch, but there are touchstone relationships that I will have for the rest of my life. There are people that I still remember that I don't know where they are, but they touched me in some way. It was just so amazing to kind of think about all of those people. It's just enriched my life. And I think that's, what else can I say? I mean, I think that it was a wonderful kind of choice, and it began so long ago. And this is like, yeah, it's been the best that I could ask for.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, Janet, you've made the museum a better place. You've made the learning team a better team. Absolutely. I'm certainly better at my job because of you.
Yeah.
And we work so well together because of you and all that you've done for us. So our thanks for that will be eternal.
Excellent.
And we look forward to what comes next for you. Do you want to say a little bit about what you hope to do in retirement, which is just around the corner?
Well, I want to travel when I can. That would be amazing. And it'll all come. We just have to be more patient. And really, what I wanted to do, and this is kind of the important piece, is that I have a legacy of art that's sitting in the studio in Chinatown that
There's
my
a piece
husband
behind
painted.
you. Yeah.
Pardon me, piece
There's a
behind
piece
me.
behind
There's
you.
still some left. I'm
Like
gradually
that.
kind of taking them all home. But Terry was my husband, and he was a 60-year kind of long art. He was an artist that painted for 60 years, and he painted for the passion of painting. We weren't in the business of art, and so I have a legacy that I need to curate. So I'm not far from the museum field in that I need to kind of curate that work. It's important. It's an important piece of his legacy, but also of mine. And so it will be a lot of fun digging into it and matching up his photographs and writings with his paintings. And it'll be another kind of journey and adventure, and a visual one, which is going to be fun.
Yeah, your experiences and will be a benefit to that project for sure.
So be good.
Well, Janet, thank you so much. Thank you for everyone who was able to join in today.
For sure.
If you joined us late or you missed something or you just need a Janet fix after she's gone, this has been recorded and you will find it on the Royal BC Museum's YouTube channel. So please have a look there.
Great.
The museum has reopened and our new feature exhibition, Orcas, Our Shared Future, is on now. So if you live locally, we encourage you to find out more about tickets on our website. And if you don't live locally, we are offering a lot of great virtual opportunities to explore that space. Now, I'm going to briefly share my screen here to end so I don't forget, the challenges of one screen. I just wanted to acknowledge that our next program is going to be on Tuesday. It is International Museums Day on May 18th. We're going to have RBCM at Home with one of the early exhibit artists who was responsible for creating a lot of our iconic dioramas. He'll tell us about those early days at noon. Museums Unite is going to be hosted by Chris, who will be talking to museums right across the country where they'll share highlights of their exhibits and museums. And late night is going to be a fun romp through the galleries. It's a virtual experience, but it's sort of like a choose your own adventure, and you can direct where we go and what we see. So I hope you'll join us then. And thank you, everyone. And please take care of yourselves and one another until we do meet again. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Kim. Bye.